Moonhead. I know you
What's
as
up?
Travis.
Yeah,
The world knows you as Moonhead.
yeah.
A lot of people in the racing community know who you are. If you don't, if you're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, if you don't know who this guy is, you are missing out on some of the best entertainment in the motorsports community. For people that aren't in the motorsports community, can you explain who you are and what you do?
Man, that's a tough one because I really don't know how. I guess the easiest way I can is to just talk about Mooncar. I started out doing an iRacing league, and streaming that and broadcasting that with myself, and my buddies, racing in it. And just over time, it kind of grew to the point where a lot of people were watching, and my following on Twitter grew. Um, and then from there, I don't know. The last year's just kind of been wild because I've ended up in some places that aren't even iRacing related. Um, but for the most part, I guess I'm just a loud iRacing guy.
That's a valid explanation. You're a meme lord.
Yeah,
So
I
I guess
guess.
some would say. So I guess that's a fair explanation to those who don't know. But those who do know you, you are almost like a stereo. You lean into almost a stereotype of what I feel like Nat people think NASCAR fans are. You're loud, you're redneck, I guess you could say.
Some would say, yeah.
Yeah. And would you like almost consider Moonhead as a character you play? Because like what we're talking now, you're calm, you're quiet. Is that just a facet of your personality? Is it like an extension of you, or is that a character you play, or is it just you?
It's an exaggerated version of me. That's the best way I can describe it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a character. It definitely is at times during Mooncar. Like, yeah, like I'm definitely gonna hype some things up on stream that maybe, I'm going a little overboard on. But for the most part, it's just an exaggerated version of me. I am a pretty shy, like quiet dude in day-to-day life. That's a
You would
big
never know that if you
misconception.
watch Mooncar.
Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't know, if somebody comes up and talks to me, like, I'm not gonna scream at them like I do on my streams, but I'll probably say most of the same things, or at least have a similar personality. I get excited about all the same stuff, really.
No, that's valid. That's valid. So I run a couple Mooncar races, and there is nothing like Mooncar.
Oh,
There is absolutely nothing like it. I remember so you and I have been in a group chat together for when I had Seth Egger on this podcast. We were both astonished. We looked back at it. That group chat's been going for like 7 or 8 years now. I don't know if you know
yeah.
it's been that long. And I remember putting in there one day because I never made the correlation that you're Mooncar. I just knew you as my friend Travis from that group chat. And I never made
Yeah.
that correlation. And I put in that group chat one day. I'm just like, does anybody know how to get into this Mooncar thing? I want to try it out. I put that in like the group chat like a year and a half ago. And Seth's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, Travis is Mooncar, you idiot. So I got an easy way in. Is I know I had an easy way in because we just knew each other. I just didn't know you were, you know, you're all what's the word I'm looking for? Other persona. How do you because it's run under as a private league. Do you let anybody who wants in join, or is it you kind of weed out people?
Not anymore. So we used to just really let anybody in. But now we have Mooncar Light, and it hasn't got to run very often because I'm so busy traveling from Georgia to North Carolina. I can only really stream when I'm down here, or at least do Mooncar when I'm down here. I've streamed on some other people's rigs in North Carolina, but um we do a thing called Mooncar Light, and anyone can join that. Like literally anybody. It's open. You just apply, and eventually we'll get around to accepting you. And we do some races there, and we watch them and see who's ready to be in regular Mooncar. We also watch regular Mooncar and see who we need to get out. So if there's somebody who just is really bad, causing a lot of problems, we might demote them down to Mooncar Light and replace them with somebody from Mooncar Light. So that's kind of the way right now. I want to in the future have some sort of better system, I think, where people kind of get answers for that because there's not really a right way or a wrong way to go about it right now. Um, but for the most part, it's private. We do let a few people skip Mooncar Light. You know, if somebody's a Coke driver or an actual NASCAR driver, like we didn't send Dale Jr. through Mooncar Light. You know, we'll make exceptions here and there, but once I get moved and we're doing Mooncar more, we'll be doing a lot more Mooncar Light. So I think we'll start to see more people getting moved up, more people getting moved down, and kind of have a cycle of people coming in.
All right. So we're back to when I went my first start. I kind of had a way in. I don't know if that was pre Mooncar Light, but does that mean I'm kicked back to Mooncar Light?
No, no, if you were
I'm
in, once
valid.
you're in, you're in, yeah. Unless you get kicked out. But as long as you don't do anything to get kicked out, you're good.
All right. So those first races I ran, I remember them very well. It was frustrating, but it was still the most next to Matt Wishart's grape drink. I think it
Yeah.
was about the most fun I've ever had on Iris. Grape drink is, I want to have him on to talk about that. Grape drink is a
Yeah.
special,
It's
the most
awesome.
fun I've ever had on iRacing. And I wasn't even with any friends. I was just doing it solo and it was amazing. But my Moonhead debut was street stocks at the LA Coliseum.
Oh God. Was
And
that last year?
it was last year. I think it was last year.
Yeah, that was wild. That's a YouTube video now.
I've seen
That
it.
race.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I made it to turn two in the future before I got dumped. And then I remember watching back on the replay. You called me out and just like, oh, that's a hell of a debut. And then I went and hit somebody or something. And then you have your catchphrase, beef. We have beef with
Hmm.
the bells and whistles and everything. So from a broadcast perspective, you lean into tension, I guess, between
Oh
guys.
yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So when it comes to the actual on-track product, though, because I haven't done too many moon car races, as I was talking to you before we started, I'm a morning person. Like I go to bed at 10, but I'm gonna stay up tonight and run it because you said you're running it tonight, just because, it seems right. You don't discourage wrecks, but you also don't encourage them. How do you
Yeah.
police that? What's the basis for a hey, don't do that versus hey, this is and it's the WWE of sim racing.
Yeah. So we have Ben Easterday, who he actually started out racing in Mooncar. Now he's our admin. He's way smarter than I am. He's the only reason Mooncar's a success. Um, but he's got like he watches everything. He's, making sure everybody's minding their P's and Q's, and we really Mooncar kind of has like a pecking order or a code almost. And I think the biggest way to avoid getting in trouble in Mooncar is to not collect other people in your stuff. Like if you're mad at somebody, we don't care if you under caution even come up there and just absolutely tattoo them. Like let them know if you take that person, if they took you out, you want to take them out, we're fine with that. Where we have an issue is these guys who maybe get doored and then they just hang a left in the middle of the pack and right hook somebody, and they may accomplish their goal of wrecking that guy, but they wreck 20 other people too. That's when we start looking at it. And even then, like it depends on your track record, and it depends on how egregious it was. Sometimes you'll get parked, sometimes we do suspensions, sometimes we'll just throw people out. Usually the most you'll see is somebody get parked, and usually people like they get it because their race was already ruined if they were that mad. But I don't know. We try to walk a fine line because we want it to be entertaining. We don't want it to be like all these other sim racing things where it's just a single file line. Nobody's really doing anything. We want people getting fired up. Our races are short. But we also want it to be a good race. Nobody wants to just sit there and watch a demolition. I mean, some people do and sometimes that's what we produce, but we strive to put on a good race with some entertaining moments. And I think most of the time we pull that off.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, Mooncar is the greatest thing on wheels. It is it's better than any demo derby, enduro, compact car crash, whatever. It's better. And I think it's better because of what you do. You you could sell water to a fish or like some whatever that saying is with you're like an 8-year-old that had caffeine for the first time. And I think that
Yeah.
completely sells that. And especially in a day where any sort of sports media is so smooth and corporate and professional. And, it's like golf, like watching NASCAR and Fox anymore. It's just like 4,
Yeah.
always going into 1. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and then there's Moonhead. And one of my favorites, you mentioned, making sure the race is entertaining. One of my favorite sound bites ever for Mooncar was in I think it was the best of 2021 or best of 2022 Mooncar sound bite. I don't want to make myself have to do a lot of work here, but I have to, bleep out some stuff because there's just no way to say it. You came on the radio at Talladega when these guys were just running single file, and you came on the radio and you were like, "Hey, stop racing like."
Yeah. Because they were. And they quit racing like that, and then they wrecked immediately. So I quickly found out why they were racing like the but I was just so mad at the time because I had all these people tuned in to watch Mooncar, and that's not the Mooncar they know and love, single file. What is this?
That's so perfect. It's such a perfect matchup because you're not trying to pretend like you have some sort of a professional product.
Right.
You're like, hey, this is a video game. We're here to make
Exactly.
entertainment. You are, I mean, next to some of the Coke Series drivers, you're probably the biggest celebrity. And if iRacing had celebrities, you'd be right there at the top of them. And that has brought you into some real world race cars too.
Yeah.
Would you
It's
like to
wild, man.
explain that?
That's man, that is a hell of a story because I still sometimes scratch my head how in the last year that all happened. I guess long story short, um, I'd met Landon Huffman through iRacing, and he and I kind of became buddies. And I went to a race with him, and this was Hickory was struggling then. They'd have like 6, 7 cars at most, and but I went up there and he swept the night. He swept some twins in a race, and they're honestly, I don't think there were that many cars in the race, but he put it on them, like just absolutely straight away them both races. And so that was fun. Like it was cool to go up there, for my first asphalt late model race I'd ever seen in person and watch my buddy win. And so a few weeks later, I went back and I just started really falling in love with the short track racing and made a lot of friends up there. And fast forward to beginning of 2022, I guess, because all that was 21. I had a little bit of money, and Landon had bought a pro late model, and me and him had kind of talked in 2021 about me racing something just to see how we could do it and kind of lean into the whole iRacing, real racing thing. Um, and yeah, I somehow we decided that I would race, and so raced a couple of races last year. Neither of them went exceptionally well. We just fought mechanical problems really. Um, but yeah, and now this year I'm back. I'm gonna run some limited late model races. Have another race that we haven't announced yet. That actually, I guess that for someone other than Landon, I'm racing a completely different car that I've never raced before. Later in the year too. So that'll be cool. And then doing the go kart stuff at Millbridge, and um, maybe a few more races here and there that we haven't really figured out yet. But I don't know. I kind of got the bug. I enjoyed it. I went out there, and speed wise, I wasn't as slow as I thought I'd be. And I think that that's kind of the thing keeping me going, where it's like, okay, now I got that carrot in front of me where it's like, okay, like it wasn't too hard for me to be halfway competitive speed wise, but it's going to be really hard to be good. That's the thing I tell people. Just going out there and making semi competitive laps and not being necessarily in the way, not really that hard if you have, as long as you're not scared to go, go out there and do it. That's not really that hard. Finding that other, half a second to be elite and how to actually race around people and make moves, that's the hard part. The going, at a decent speed is not really that hard. So now I'm in that stage where it's like, now I'm constantly bugging Landon. I've still never done a test. So like I want to go out there, I want to do a bunch of test laps and try to, figure out how to go out there and lay down a good lap so I can qualify and actually race these limited races when I go out there and try to be around cars and or be around more cars than I was last time out. And I don't know, just learn every time out. I'm doing it to have fun too, so that makes it a lot less stressful for me. You know, I'm not. I know I'm not going to be a Cup Series driver or something one day. I'd like to go be able to run some late model stuff and be competitive when I do it.
So in a way, you almost like your way into being a race car driver in a
Pretty
roundabout
much,
way through Mooncar.
pretty much, yeah, yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for Mooncar, there's no way I'd be doing what I'm doing.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. See, time spent on the internet, even as ridiculous as it may seem, can be worthwhile.
Oh yeah.
When you when you're pulling out onto the track for, I'd imagine you probably pulled out for a heat race or warm ups or something, for the first time, and you got other cars around you. What is going through your mind?
So my first laps, I went out. We like I said, we never tested nothing. So I climb in for morning. You can go at Hickory. You can pay a little extra to do a morning practice, and a lot of the teams do that. So we go out there, and the car was there was an electrical problem, so it was kind of missing. But they got it fixed enough, I guess, for the time being, for me to go out there and make a few laps. So I get in and I strap in, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, damn, like I'm really about to do this. This is cool. And Landon comes up to the window. He's like, yeah, it's not perfect right now. Just actually the same thing I said to the Mooncar drivers. He said, just don't be a P word. Like, all right. So I go out there, go down the back straightaway. I get up to fourth gear, go into 3 and 4. I come out of 4, and I'm still running low because there's people out there. I'm trying to find a gap, so I'm just riding around. I come off of 2 again, and he's like, "All right, you got a gap, get up and go." So I go, drive down into 3. I come off of 4, and I'm wide open. And I don't, I hadn't been coached. I've watched some laps there around Hickory, but I'm just like, all right, I need to sail this thing off into turn 1. So I overdrove it by quite a bit. The tire barrier down there in turn 1 at Hickory. Anybody who's seen Hickory knows where that's at on the outside wall. I was not off the gas until I was there, and that is turn 1. So I overdrove it by a mile. Landon screaming on the radio. I'm finally off the gas and on the brakes. Way up the track I go. I'm in the stuff. I'm like almost in the wall. And he's like screaming, brakes, 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 brakes. And then he told me to bring it in. So I brought it in, and they told me that, okay, like, we know you're not scared now. You need to back it down a little bit. And I went out there. I actually ended up spinning in the afternoon practice. But once again, like, that's I'm not embarrassed of it because it's my first time out. Like, I'd rather spin out trying to go fast than just go out there and putt around, So we got everything fixed up. Had to start in the back, and we broke on lap 20. But it was wild, man. I had a couple friends in the race, so it was cool to like learn from them as well. I didn't get to really race around anybody though, but it was fun. It was fun. So we went back in November and ran the fall brawl, and that went a lot better. I ran the whole race there. Just kind of ran in the back half of the field, but it was fun.
That's awesome. So whereabouts were you running before the car broke down?
Oh, dude, I was like second to last. Yeah, I was not running good at all.
I was hoping there'd be like this hero story where Moonhead's up
No,
there.
no. So they drew for qualifying, rained out, and they drew, and I drew fourth, but we didn't know if the car was even going to go when we went because we had that electrical problem. So we started in the back, and so I'm pretty sure I started dead last, and I passed like one person, but I was right there behind. So since they drew for qualifying, the field was all sorts of like, there were or slow cars up front, fast cars in the back. I actually ended up behind Natalie. I started right behind Natalie, so I was just riding behind her, really trying to figure out how to make laps.
And
And
you're talking about Natalie Decker?
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. And so I just rode behind her, and then like I said, caution came out on lap 20, and I was smoking, and I'm gonna find out we had busted the oil pan. So
Uh,
yeah, so that was bad.
does that lead into so I every guest I have on this podcast, I send a quick little Google Forms survey to just, in case of somebody that, like, most of the people I have on here I know pretty well, but some people I don't. So I want to have a good idea of going into it. And you said things to ask you about that time you finished 12th.
Yeah, that's a meme, man. I ran 12th in the
This already
fall
sounds
model,
good.
and we started. Man, so I qualified really bad. Actually, my buddy Delph, from Shenandoah Shine, he's in the grandstands while I qualified. And my qualifying run was so bad that Joey Logano stopped having a conversation with somebody and shook his head in disgust right after he won a cup championship. So that was pretty cool. Because I mean, I sold the farm off into one. I about spun off a two. It was really bad. I also missed a shift, so I did about everything you could do wrong in qualifying wrong. And Joey Logano got to watch it. Um, so I
Does he know who
qualified.
you are?
No, I'm sure he doesn't. I don't know. I don't know that he does. I wouldn't think he does. He's got more important things to worry about. Um, but anyway, so I go out there. I qualified second to last somehow. The fact that I out qualified somebody is a miracle. Um, but I out qualified one person, and so I started. I think there were 17 cars. I started 16th. We ran as high as eighth. So that was cool. But we were really, really loose, and then I just murdered the right rear tire. So I ended up 12th, and we went a couple of laps down. It was a 100 lap race too. It wasn't. I didn't go 2 laps down in a 30 lap race. It was a 100 lap race. Um, but after that, I was just like, dang, I finished 12th in the Carolina Pro Late Model Series. Normally, somebody wouldn't brag about that. I'm just going to kind of make that the meme. And so now, anytime somebody asks me about an accomplishment, or if I just feel like talking crap on Twitter, I bring up that I finished 12th on in a Carolina Pro Late Model Series race at Hickory. So there's not really a whole lot to it. There's some people who think I'm dead serious, like think that that is like, in my mind, a great big accomplishment. Um, and I guess in some ways it is. The fact that I even ran a late model race is pretty cool. But
Exactly. You're far ahead of
um,
me.
yeah, so I don't know. But for the most part, I just like to meme it up.
There you go. And that is so great to have that humility. You can
Yeah.
nobody makes fun of himself like Moonhead makes fun of himself.
Oh yeah.
You're always willing to take it, you lean it you I don't know what the word I'm looking for. You're really just a comedian, honestly,
Yeah, I guess.
in a
Yeah,
way.
I lean into a lot of the only thing, like the only way people can make me mad really, like trolls wise, are the ones who just say things that are completely untrue. You know what I mean? Like some people just make up these ridiculous theories or things and say them to me on Twitter, and I'm like, it's not even that I get mad. It's more of just I think that like I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, why are you saying that? But yeah, like anything like that, if somebody wants to come at me for like not being good at driving a race car, I'm gonna be like, yeah, like wow, I've raced twice and I'm not good at it. Like, oh well, like okay, like I'm just gonna lean into this, you know? Because once again, if I'm not having fun, I'm not gonna do it. So I'm not gonna let anybody rain on my parade.
Absolutely. That's some great just like life advice in general.
Yeah.
S- So back to Mooncar. I think that, at least from my eyes, got its biggest publicity ever when Dale Earnhardt Jr. not only ran Mooncar, but in the most Mooncar fashion ever, won on his way to going into a flip at
Yeah.
Talladega backwards.
Yeah.
How did you get Junior into that? Explain that whole story? Because it's got to be incredible.
Yeah. So Dale, a lot of his buddies, I guess, that he kind of races with and games with online, um, handful of them had run Mooncar. Um, and so they had kind of been in, and then Blake McCandless, good buddy of mine, he had been racing with Dale a little bit on iRacing and just that whole group, and he was always disappearing and come run Mooncar, and I guess like obviously they had seen some Mooncar stuff on Twitter, and through that Dale became aware of Mooncar, and Dale had followed me on Twitter at the time, and I don't really know. I just know one night I got a message from Blake like, "Hey, Dale's gonna run the next race." We were doing multiple races, and we were doing a dirt modified race at Charlotte, and he hopped in there. He actually drove to the lead, took the lead, and put it in the wall with 5 to go. and like choked the win. I was like, damn, like that'd have been cool if Dale would have won Mooncar. He'll probably never run again, you know, like, and not that I think he wasn't having fun or anything, but it's Dale. Like he's a busy guy. Like this was probably a one-off thing. And we did a one last 87 at Dega race, and I going through the grid, and there he is. He's in there, and I'm like, oh dang, that's cool. He came back for this one too, because it was late. It was like after midnight at this point. And long story short, they take the white flag, they start wrecking like hell, and there's 3 cars left, and he's one of them. And I just remember in that moment thinking, like, dang, like no matter what, this is going to be big because it's Dale Jr. He's going to be a part of this finish. And he's got a legitimate chance to win here. And they come through the tri-oval, and he made all the right moves. It also showed how good of an iRacer he is because he played everything right. And they start wrecking like hell up there, and he ends up in the air and flipping and wins. And I just, as soon as he went across the line, I I don't know. I knew in that moment I was like, this is going to be big for Mooncar. I didn't realize how big it was going to be, and a lot of other things had to go right for it to be that big. But I knew in that moment it was going to be big, and sure enough, it popped off on Twitter that night because Dale tweeted about it winning Mooncar, which was cool. But the next morning, I did I put the clip on Twitter, and then that just went because Dale interacted with that. Um, then NASCAR on NBC went with it, and they made a win graphic and put it on Instagram and like all this stuff. And Dega was actually that weekend, so I ended up at Dega, and Dale happened to be there with Fox, so he invited me to Victory Lane with him and Noah after Noah won. So then we got to take a picture, and that blew up on Twitter. So it was just a big week, and I gained a lot of followers. Really, ever since then, Mooncar has just kind of been on this steady thing because it was kind of up and down there for a while, but now we've got a pretty consistent viewer base.
So Junior's obviously the biggest. Have you ever had any other, like, I guess, big names join for an evening or more than that?
Oh man, it's wild. If you go through like the list of Mooncar winners, it's wild some of the names because there's tons of like top tier iRacers, um, some real world drivers. Obviously, Dale's the biggest. And then there's just like random people like Drew Parker and Tim Duggar, you know, two country music singers come in there and run. Um, Trying to think, man, who's somebody like wild that people wouldn't expect. Um, I don't know. I'd have to go through the list, but there are definitely some like cool names that pop in there. Ryan Truex just won an Xfinity race. He's run. I don't think he's ever won a Mooncar race, but he's run some Mooncar. Obviously Garrett Smithley, Ryan Vargas, Anthony Alfredo. They've run a good bit. Carson Hocevar's won a couple Mooncar races. Chase Cavry's won. There's a few others. Connor Daly's supposed to come run with us. I've talked to him multiple times. He's in the Discord and I think in the league. But he hasn't made a start yet. But I talked to him a few weeks ago at Coda on Pit Road. We were talking about it. So hopefully I can get him out one. I don't know, man. It's such a while, and I think that's one of the things I'm proud of with Mooncar is there's literally, you know, people who'd be looked at as just off statistics or iRating or whatever alone, like a below average or just an average sim racer going up against, if you know, Dale's running a legit NASCAR Hall of Famer, you know, with a country music singer mixed in, or you know, a Coke Series driver, or some, you know, we've got late model racers who race with us. We've got dirt racers who race with. It's just a big conglomerate of people from all sorts of different walks of life. And I think that's what makes it so exciting too. You know, the big thing I try to lean into with Mooncar is the fact that it is a video game. And when I say that, I don't mean that negatively. I think a lot of times people get bent out of shape because, yeah, it's simulation. Yeah, we're doing this as an alternative to the real thing. But if we ever want this to be big, we can't just say, oh, it's fake racing, because that's essentially what they're doing with the NASCAR stuff. And I think that's really cool. But at the end of the day, it's fake racing, and they're just trying to mimic something that's already on TV. You're never going to convince new people to watch that. If you take the tools we're provided with this video game and create something that you can't create in real life, then you're onto something. then you're going to get those people who maybe even think, oh, it's just fake racing. They're going to be interested. I mean, where you're not going to see Dale Earnhardt Jr. win a race at modern Talladega in a 1987 Cup car upside down. Like, you're not, that's never going to happen in real life. That's not going to happen on Fox. Like, not going to happen on NBC. I don't care what they do. That's never going to happen. Only place you can see that is on iRacing. And so that's our goal. Same thing with taking these Miatas to ovals and doing stuff like that. It's how can we make something that isn't a complete meme? Like, we do want it to be somewhat realistic, just so it puts on a good race. You know, if we didn't want that, we would just do demo derbies and let people go backwards and stuff. But at the same time, I want what's going to put on the best show. And I think the best way to do that is by creating something that you can't create in real life.
That's such a great recipe, is trying to find a balance. Like, we're not going to put a Formula One car on a rallycross track,
Right.
but we're not going to sit here and take, Gen 7s and bring them to Charlotte.
Right.
It's that perfect, just like it itches at both sides of the spectrum. And which you said when you mentioned Miatas, bringing Miatas to ovals. One of the, I think one of the greatest events in iRacing is the 24 hours of Martinsville.
Yeah.
I wanted to run it this year. I was busy that weekend, but I was gonna get together with Seth and I was gonna be part of their team. Why? How?
Yeah, that one kind of started on a whim because I had a 24-hour stream, like channel points redemption. For people not familiar with Twitch, on Twitch, people who watch your stream and subscribe to you, they get channel points just for however long they watch. And you could create little goals for people to spend their channel points on. It doesn't cost them anything. So I had one for a set amount. I don't even remember what it was. If somebody redeemed it, I'd do a 24-hour stream. And the whole idea was we'd do like a 24-hour Mooncar race. Originally, we were going to do something at Bristol. We ended up doing Miatas at Martinsville. And it was pretty cool. We raised money for Toys for Tots during it. So we raised like $3,000 or something, I believe,
That's
the first year.
incredible.
So that was pretty cool. And then, yeah, fast forward a couple years, and in 2021, we got rated by Summit during it. So there were like 10,000 people watching at one point. And we raised like $6,000 that year. And then last year we raised, I don't even remember. I think it was like 4,000 or something. So, and the three times we've done it, we raised a little over $13,000. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's just 24 hours, team races, Miatas at Martinsville, and then I broadcast the whole thing. So I'm up for 24 hours, a little over 24 hours, trying to
Did
keep
you
everybody entertained.
do you broadcast it solo?
Bits and pieces. I have a lot of people come in the booth and just hang out with me and talk. But yeah, I mean, I for the like I'm doing all the production, like everything, all the cameras, everything like that. That's me the whole time.
That's incredible. What a trooper. My favorite always. Oh, and you keep the energy throughout it too. Except I've never like popped in on the stream, but I've seen highlights of it.
Yeah.
And we're like, 2 hours to go, and you're still screaming and yelling.
Yeah, my
Like,
voice is usually done after it because I won't scream the entire time and be completely obnoxious, but yeah, like if it's 3 in the morning, and there's still however many hours to go, and a leader gets turned, I'm gonna be just as hyped about it as if it was the last lap. So I keep the energy through the whole thing.
that's amazing. And one of my favorite parts about watching, like towards the end of it, is just the amount of marbles that are on the track.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's crazy. So Miata's at Martinsville. When I did it, we did street stocks at the Coliseum. What are some of the crazier car track combos Mooncar has run?
Man, anything we do at Daytona with the chicane's pretty wild. So we'll run Daytona, but they have to take the backstretch chicane. That's pretty wild. Man, I'm trying to think. Years ago, we did some Legends car stuff on Rallycross track. Um, Man, I'm trying to think. Miatas on any oval are insane. Oh man, I know I'm probably forgetting one, but those are the ones that come to mind right away.
I believe, didn't you do the Kia Optimas on an oval somewhere?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, we did do that one time. Those were pretty wild too. I can't really take credit for some of those though, because a lot of those real wacky ones we get from like Grape Drink and things like that, where people are doing some wild stuff.
Have you ever tried Pro Mazdas at Indianapolis?
Yes, that was one of them. Yes, that was one of the ones I was forgetting about. But yes, we've done that, and that's wild because they'll go like 7 wide around the whole place.
And you can bump drafts in an open wheel car and you'll be
Yeah,
fine.
it's
It
wild.
it it is wild. You seem to you've seemed to hold on to ever since it came out the 87 Cup cars at Talladega. That seems to be the reoccurring one. What's so magical about that car track combo? Because any sort of highlights I've seen, Twitch highlights, Twitch clips and stuff, a lot of them are that. Why is that?
I think it's because it's and right now it's not at its peak. I don't think they've kind of screwed it up a little bit, in my opinion. Um, but for the most part, it's just the perfect combination of all the things we're looking for. So, one, everybody for the most part enjoys driving it. Two, there's a lot of draft, so we get a pack. So, somebody's not going to run away with it. But those guys still have to make moves, still have to wheel it. They can pack air in those cars, which is really cool. Um, it's just it's fairly forgiving, I feel like, so they can get away with kind of getting into each other, get sideways. It's got the new damage model, so the net code's not as bad, so they can really beat and bang. And they can beat and bang and fix their cars too. That's the other good thing. You get in some of these cars that have the old style damage model, and you get hit in the door and your motor blows. You don't have that problem in the 87 unless you lose a wheel, then you're screwed. But I think it's just it puts on such a good show, and the guys are able to do things in that car that they can't really do anywhere else. I mean, it's wild to watch them 3, 4 wide, shoving each other off into corners at almost 230, and then being sideways through the whole corner and watching them all slide up the hill, and then people backing up, still trying to get a run. And there's aspects of plate racing and blocking and stuff, but then like also kind of some of that badass intermediate track stuff that we're all chasing too. So I don't know, man. I can't really give one reason. It's just a combination of things that we always seem to fall back into the 87s.
With all the ridiculous car track combos you've tried, have there ever been any that have just absolutely flopped like
Oh yeah.
so hard? Like
Yeah.
can you think of any?
Oh man, yeah, we've tried some stuff with. I can't think of like specific instances, but yeah, like we'll get on and we'll try like some road car, even that Brazilian Cup car. We thought that or whatever it was called, Brazilian stock car. We thought like, oh, that's right up Mooncar's alley, and it was cool at Darlington, and that was about it. So there's a lot of them where we're limited with what we can do, like gearing wise, to put them on big tracks. And so yeah, they'll end up flopping. Like we'll try it, and they'll end up gridlocked and not being able to pass and stuff like that.
Have you ever tried the spec racer forward on an oval?
Yes, I believe so. No, 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 no. We did the radical. So no, I haven't
Dude,
done the spec racer.
I highly suggest. I don't know if you do testing and R&D before you put it in a moon car session,
Yeah, we
but
do.
SCCA at Charlotte,
Legends Oval or the big one?
the big one. They
Okay.
draft like crazy. They suck up really good. You can bump drafts in them.
Oh dang.
It was like a big I haven't seen it hosted in years. But back in like 2015, 2016, probably around then, it was a huge thing. Like if you go on a Saturday night, you'll see a spec racer Ford race at like Charlotte. They draft great. You can get the gearing right. Highly recommend trying that one
Yeah.
out. And I'm sure you can bring that to other ovals as well.
Yeah, I'll keep that on the list.
It was fun. I mean, I don't even know if you could do anymore. I mean, there might be a reason why, I don't see them in hosted anymore. But at the time, top-notch racing,
Yeah.
top-notch wrecking, top-notch entertainment.
Yeah. That's what we're looking for.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the production of Mooncar back in the 24 Hours of Martinsville. Is that just 100% you doing everything, or do you have help sometimes?
So
or
I don't make like any of the graphics. Jordan Worth makes all my he streams on his Twitch streams bottom split. So he does some broadcasting stuff too. He makes all my graphics, but as far as when I'm live, yeah, anything you see on screen or any sound you hear, or any camera you see, anything like that, that's all me.
are you manually doing the cameras, or is
Yeah.
that you're manually doing them?
Yeah,
Wow.
so like I have a monitor over here and the program has like all my graphics stuff, like the ticker results, nameplates, text boxes, anything like that, the beef stuff that pops up. And then it's also got like the running order so I can see who's running where and I can click on that tab what camera in iRacing I want to go to and then click on a driver for it to focus on. So like any time the camera is moving or anything like that, that's obviously iRacing follows the car. I'm not like manually doing the camera.
Yeah.
But like anything like that, yeah, that's all while I'm calling the race, I'm also clicking and stuff. That's why you'll hear me. I'll get mad when I like click wrong sometimes too. So like in the middle of the call, like I've been known to cuss at myself.
Now, what program is that? Is that like a public free to use program or?
Yeah, it's called ATVO. I think now you have to make an account, but I don't think it costs anything. I'm not paying. Hopefully, I'm not supposed to be. Yeah,
Because the only thing I've ever heard of like stuff you could do that was like OBS, but OBS is like
yeah.
it's very dated.
So I
It's not user
stream through
friendly.
OBS. Uh, ATVO just does cameras and everything that you see on screen. But yeah, OBS, I stream with that. I'm really stupid. I don't know how I made it this far doing all that because it looks really complex. But I've got a lot of smart people around me who can point me in the right direction.
It works out very, very well. So, where did the you just screaming beef come from? Because that's just a staple of the the Mooncar broadcast.
The earliest clip I can find of me doing it was actually in the first Mooncar 24, but it really didn't take off until like midway through 2021. Uh, Tyler O'Neill and James Gibson were two Mooncar drivers who always seem to run up front and contend for wins and always wreck each other. And they got into it one night, and O'Neill had enough and wrecked Gibson out of the lead, like just right reared him, big horrific crash in the trioval at Talladega. It was awesome, and I screamed beef during the call. And then really ever since then, it's just been all about beef, and we made T-shirts and all that. They sold really good, and now, damn, anywhere I look, if something happens in racing, people are tagging me like beef. So I didn't create the term. Like, a lot of people act like I created the term beef. Like I guess
Yeah,
I love rap music, so like I'm always keeping up with like rap beef. I guess that's probably what made me say it, but I guess now it's kind of become more of a racing meme. And I guess Mooncar's to blame. I don't know. I don't know if somebody did it before me. Um, but yeah, I get tagged and a lot of stuff will be. I saw SRX was using it the other day, so that was cool.
that's amazing. What were your Twitter mentions like when the Xfinity series came out? Was that their Daytona Spring Daytona race was sponsored
Yeah.
by it was called the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. What were your Twitter mentions like when that happened?
Just a bunch of people saying beef, or a bunch of people saying I should be the grand marshal, all that. Um, but
You should
yeah,
be.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd want to do that. I don't
Why
know. I could
not?
probably do it. I could probably do it. I'm not
Dude, you
really
would give
that
best
scared of
command.
crowds, but I don't know. Those people don't know me either. That's like a whole, I think that's like a serious farmer thing. So I don't want to make a mockery of them.
That's valid. When you go to races, do you ever get recognized
Well, it depends.
or have you ever been
Sometimes.
recognized?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it happens. I'd say more times than not now at the track, especially NASCAR races. Not as much on the short track stuff. I do get recognized at the short track stuff, but it's a whole different vibe at the short track, level. There, I mean, you never know who you're going to see in a pit area like Hickory or whatever, because so many people like to go back there on off weekends or whatever. So, um, I don't have as many people come up to me at Hickory, but yeah, at NASCAR races, typically if I go to a NASCAR race, I have a handful of people come up and say either yell something beef related at me or come up and talk to me and say they watch Mooncar. So that's really cool. I like it. A lot of people message me after the fact and be like, "Hey, you looked mad, so I didn't want to come up to you and talk." And I'm like, I look mad all the time, but I'm not mad. Like Anybody who sees me can come up and talk to me. But yeah, the NASCAR stuff definitely damn near every race now. At least one or two people come up, so that's cool. I had a guy at Bucky's locally here one time who knew who I was. So that was pretty weird because nothing like racing related around. He just came up to me. He's like, "You're Moonhead, aren't you?" And I was like, "Damn, it's pretty cool." Like, yeah, what's up?
What was that like the first time that happened when it wasn't just like a friend of yours? Like, cause I'll yeah, I
Yeah,
meet up with friends all the time and it's just like, oh, catches me off guard, like, oh, you're here. But like
yeah,
had a complete stranger come up to you and be like, you're that guy. You're that guy
yeah.
that commentated Dale Jr. doing that iRacing thing.
Man, I don't remember the first time, but I'm sure I thought it was cool. Like, I don't. I think anybody would think that was cool. You know, that total stranger saw something you did and they liked it so much that they wanted to meet you. Like, that's cool. Um, I don't really like look at it. Some people like I think like, oh, because he does this and has built this following doing that, that like they act like I'm actually like relevant in the grand scheme of things. And I have to remind people like when they're coming up to talk to me, like, hey, like I appreciate you watching and all that, but I'm really not like I'm nowhere near as relevant as the majority of the people at this racetrack right now. So like um so I don't really look at it like that, but it's cool. Like I love talking to people and kind of being able to put a face with the name because a lot of times I'll recognize the name whether it's from Twitter or from Twitch. Like they tell me their username, I'll be like, oh yeah, like I've definitely seen that name somewhere, whether it's in notifications or replying to my tweet or hell, maybe I've talked to them or played a game with them or something, you know, or raced with them on iRacing. So I love it. I love meeting people.
Now that's awesome. Uh, Almost just as much of a celebrity as you are is on social media is your pet pig. As you can see on the wall behind you if you're watching the video. Can you give us a story on the pig?
So back in 2016, I think I rescued a dog who was she wasn't
That's a
doing
weird
well.
looking dog.
Yeah, yeah, well it ties in. um it ties in. She wasn't doing well. I found her on the road. It almost seemed like she had been hit by a car at some point. She was a really small dog. So I only had her for a year, but like I got really like I was just attached to this dog because I kind of nursed her back to health, but got her doing a lot better, and then she eventually passed away because she was old. um so after that I was like, dang, like there's that void and I didn't want to like replace my dog. And I'd always wanted a pig, and a few months passed, and my 18th birthday was coming up. So by then it was 2017, towards the end of the year, and um, ended up getting a pig. And I talked my parents into it because I was like, it's 18th birthday, graduation stuff. Let me have a pig.
Let's get a
So
pig. Yeah.
we did. We got a pig, and he's been awesome. It's crazy to me. We talk about like some of the stuff I've been able to do and like Mooncar growing the way it has, but the following Spanky has, I probably get just as many questions about Spanky as I do Mooncar. And that's wild to me. I mean, Spanky's been a pit sign in 2 cup races.
No,
Um,
really?
yeah, Spanky's got an Xfinity Series chassis named after him.
Wait,
He's been
who
on
who did the pit signs?
Garrett Smithley. So
Oh,
Garrett
that's awesome.
for Martinsville and Phoenix of 2021, Spanky was his pit sign, and then Vargas did a deal with me during the Mooncar 24 in 2021 that if we hit a goal, I forget what it was, but we knocked it out of the water basically for Toys for Tots. He'd put Spanky on his name rail. So he did that. And then they went to Daytona and they qualified like 8th or whatever. And so it was a big deal. So they ended up, that super speedway chassis has a Spanky sticker in there next to the code or whatever on it. And the chassis is named Spanky. Brennan Poole still runs it. There's still, if you go look at Brennan Poole's car on a super speedway, you can see Spanky in there on the right side. Um, so that's cool. It's wild. We turned 5 back in October, so he's officially hit adulthood in the pig life, and he's still chilling. He's awesome, man. He's smarter really than any dog I've ever had. not really any trouble these days. They're a pain. They're a real pain in the butt when they're young, but once they get their routine, they're cool. They're chilling. I love just seeing how much love he gets on social media.
Like I said, man, he's almost as, you know, probably more well loved, you
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah.
it, celebrity pig. And it, it just, it works so well. So Mooncar, I'm gonna run that tonight for sure.
hmm
Do you know what you're doing tonight? You mentioned Miatas somewhere.
Yeah, we're gonna do Miatas at Wilkesboro and Richmond for sure, and then maybe do a big track. I don't know. I had a busy week ahead because the whole move, so I can't be on too late, but we'll see. We'll session will be up at 10 tonight. We'll be live at 10:30, so we'll just have to see how quick everything goes. But regardless, Wilkesboro and Richmond always put on good shows, so I'm excited.
Of course. So looking towards the future, do you have a future in mind for Mooncar or just do you ever like worry about it growing stale at all?
I do, but to be honest, for the last year, it's been so basically right after the whole Dale thing last year, I was gone so much that we have not gone on like a Mooncar run like we were going on back before the Dale stuff happened. And so I think because of that, now that I'm moving and we're gonna be back doing Mooncar 4 nights a week, I really think that we're about to go on another run. And when we do that, things happen organically. And yeah, there definitely are gonna be times where it kind of goes stale. But the beauty of what we do is it's iRacing. So as soon as the 87s lose their luster, we'll go to a Gen 4. And then Gen 4 kind of loses its luster, we'll go to Miatas. And we move around, change it up. Um, so I do worry about that, but I don't worry about it being like the death of Mooncar because as long as we're consistently doing stuff and everybody's having fun, I don't think it'll go completely stale.
No, with a formula like that, I don't think it could either.
No.
But in the age of instant gratification and short attention spans, like that would worry the crap out of me, even though it
Yeah.
may not be the most rational fear. But if you have not watched Mooncar, there's never a better time to watch Mooncar. Travis, where can we find you to watch this spectacle of racing?
Twitch.tv/Moonhead. I think Mooncar.tv actually works. Hopefully we haven't missed the bill on that. I think that'll work too. But yeah, other than that, I'm it's Moonhead on Twitter. That's really where I'm most active. You can kind of keep up to date with Mooncar there. Mooncar has a Twitter as well, Mooncar Live. We're gonna be more active on there here soon as well. We got some cool stuff we're talking about doing on there, kind of during the races and whatnot. So yeah, those are the main places. And like I said, once I get moved here in the next week or so, we'll be back Monday through Thursday. Pretty much, if it's a Monday or any day Monday through Thursday, you can pretty much guarantee there'll be Mooncar unless I say otherwise. So it's gonna be fun. I'm excited. I think it's gonna be a cool summer of Mooncar. I really think we're kind of on the verge of some cool stuff.
I'm excited for it. You heard the man, everybody. Go check him out if you missed any of that or couldn't hear it. All that information will be in the description wherever you're watching this or listening to it. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Travis, it has been a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it.
Alrighty. Moonhead on the Draiss Media Podcast.